Hello. It's time to talk more about the day of the Lord, Judgment Day, which is in the past. Please understand that we have been lied to in the body of Christ about a futurist idea that we're looking forward to the second coming and the millennial reign. There is still so much to look forward to. But this is a lie that has gotten into the church so badly, and it is, in my opinion, the greatest conspiracy ever. And all the other lies that the elites, the higher-ups, shadow government, Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, Zionist Jews, the people that run the world, all of these big lies that are shoved into us since education started, they're all tied into this. And it's brutal how we have been lied to, especially from those from the pulpit who tell us, and I agree, to pay attention to the Bible and what it says. Don't twist the Bible. That is why you cannot deny that Jesus returned when he said he would, and that the day of the Lord happened then. Remember, Jesus told his disciples that surely all these things would come to pass in this generation. This generation. Not surely all these things will come to pass 2,000 years down the line. No. There are things that you cannot ignore. Think about the Daniel 70 weeks prophecy. The most specific to the day prophecy. You want to believe, if you have a futurist view, that the 69 weeks happened and we've been waiting thousands of years on that 70th week? Does that make sense? You know, Jesus also said that those who pierced him would see him coming on the clouds. Surely there are some standing here who will not die before they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds. I really love the part where, if you're familiar with the prophecy in Daniel, the angel tells Daniel to seal up this prophecy because the time is not now, it's for a future time. Now think about this. What happened with John and the prophecy in Revelation? Did the angel tell him to seal it up? No. He said, John, the time is at hand. Think about that. Please think about that. It's a brutal lie. And the thing is, as soon as your spiritual eyes start to open, you start seeing the proof of the day of the Lord. Ezekiel, Isaiah, they all talked about this, as did Jesus and Peter and Paul. Remember, our God is a consuming fire. But he said in the day of the Lord, the buildings would melt like wax in that judgment. That's what I want to talk about today. You can do the easiest search in the world for buildings or rock formations that look like melted buildings. There's so many on every single continent. In any landscape, there's in Chad, in Morocco, in Libya, in Tunisia, in Algeria, China, all over the world. You also see temples that apparently were built in the stone. And yet, a lot of these temples even have steeples on them. So you're going to tell me you went many, many yards down into the ground, dug out a temple, and decided to put an ornate steeple? No. Look at some of these pictures. What's interesting about this is it's a federal offense. It is a felony to dig anywhere on these sites. Think about that. What might be uncovered. Look at some of these pictures. Petra is a good example. Goblin Valley State Park, all over the world. Buildings that got melted. Absolutely roasted. You can see on a lot of them that the rubble comes down off the side of the mountain like it just got bombed. The day of the Lord was here. There's also another thing called the Lichtenberg effect. It's like when you get a lightning spread on the ground. Look how much of that there is all over the world. 2/3 of the earth becoming uninhabitable because of vengeance. There's a lot of wastelands that the Lord said would go down like this. Also, let's think about vitrified forts, vitrification. It's where stone or rock enclosure is exposed to extreme heat. And by extreme heat, I mean over 1,000 degrees Celsius, like between 1,000 and 1,200 degrees Celsius, for a very long time. Think of like these castles and monuments you see up on hills, and it looks like the rock has just been melted all around it. Even the charlatan geologists don't have any explanation for these formations. I do. Jesus meant what he said. When he looked at his disciples and they asked him, how should we know? How should we know the end is here? We said, well, when you see the abomination of desolation set up in the temple, when you see the Gentiles surrounding the city, go to the hills. That's abnormal because usually when there's a problem, you would want to go into the city. Jesus was telling them to go to the hills. Why is that important? A, because from 66 to 70, they did surround the city for 42 months. And then the abomination of desolation was set up in the temple. Look up the Jewish-Roman War. It happened exactly when Jesus said it would. Exactly. 66 to 73 is that time frame of the tribulation. Why would Jesus tell his disciples, when you see this stuff happening, go to the hills because you know that time is now? It's such a obviously messed up move to tell his disciples that if it was actually a time down the line. You can see when Jesus talked about future generations. You can see when Old Testament prophets talked about something after Jesus or during his time. It's rough because you hear a lot of pastors that want to stick right to the Bible. That's great. Everything should be tied directly to the Word. But there's so many questions they can't answer, or they do these jumping through hoops to answer them. We have been fed a gross lie about the time we're in. Not only that, but that everything is good and will get taken away. I can't say how brutal that is, because it puts everyone in fear of always thinking we're in the end times. There's always someone that looks like the Antichrist, always someone that looks like tribulation, because there's always going to be wars and rumors of wars. There's always going to be earthquakes. No pastor talks about how there is the second coming, Armageddon, the 1,000-year millennial reign, and then it says Satan is released from his prison to deceive the nations. No one talks about that time frame. Nobody. Feels like we're being deceived. It really feels like we're being deceived. All over the world. And I'm not talking about these megalith structures. I'm not talking about the giant cities that were destroyed in the flood. I'm talking about temples and places that were obviously torched in the day of the Lord. When we read Revelation for what it is and go off what Jesus said, what he was saying, when he told his disciples this generation and other places, believe it or not, he actually meant that generation. Also, do you know how many times he said, I come quickly, surely I come quickly? Telling to John, quickly. Paul talking to the churches, quickly, he's coming. That word in the Greek, guess what it means? Without delay. Guess where else it's used in the Bible? It's not used to say, hey, guess what? This is going to happen 1,000 years or 2,000 years down the line. No, this is We need to get out of our spirit of religion. This has wrapped up so many people. And you know what's crazy is that if a pastor's honest with himself, and I've heard some say this, that there are holes in the views that we've been taught. We aren't taught much about the Jewish-Roman War. We aren't taught much about Nero and the beast and the whore of Babylon in the way it is actually described. We went through the day of the Lord. But here's the thing. It's still going to get good. Yes, the great white throne judgment is down the line, but it's going to get good for the body of Christ. I hold on to that. 100%. This is still the earth that God gave to his children, that we are taking back from the adversary. God didn't give this world to Satan. Satan took the world that was given to Adam. He only has the authority that we hand over to him. Well, the body of Christ is waking up. The futurist view is demonic. It truly is. I don't know how many years it will take for the body of Christ to wake up to that fact, but all the signs point to that the second coming happened. They all do. The biggest thing with this is that people aren't walking into their calling, who God chose them to be for such a time as this, because you should count it an honor to be here at this time, because we are in the greatest years coming up for the body of Christ, when evil gets pushed back 100%, 100%. And if you think that the greater works, those that believe in me not only will do the works that I did, but greater works in this, if you think that's just telling people about the gospel, you are sadly confused. Yes, the Great Commission is the greatest thing we can do. Leading people to Christ, the greatest thing. However, he also has amazing things. Things that are going to make walking on the water look like child's play. There are massive, massive things on the horizon for the body of Christ. We handed over our rights to these lands. The enemy took them, set up demonic strongholds, set up platforms for the enemy. And when those wake up to their calling to take authority and take back the land that was given to them, this world changes. I don't know how long that'll take, but I do know that pastors need to start looking for the word with what it says. Look into dispensationalism. Look into Darby and the Scofield Bible, and how this futurist view started is not biblical at all. I just pray the body of Christ can wake up to these things so that you don't miss out on your earthly inheritance. Yes, we have a heavenly inheritance. Don't get me wrong. But the thing is, we were called to some great things in this time to absolutely expose the devil. The devil that doesn't have to hide anymore. He's right out in the open, taking over things. It's not how... This story doesn't end with us losing. The body of Christ does not lose this story. That's a defeatist view that is also demonic. Read the Bible for what it says. And there's things you simply cannot get around. You just can't get around it. Also said Satan would change the times and seasons. Very much so. History is a set of lies agreed upon. I pray that the elect wake up to this in order to take back and shatter the gates of hell. Have a good day.